It's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and where else would I be but here with you? DJ Stutz here with Little Hearts Academy USA and Imperfect Heroes podcast. And if it looks like I'm sitting in a truck in the middle of a parking lot, that's because I am. So we packed everything, sold the house, and we are now up in Fish Haven, Idaho, which is right by the Utah border. We're just off of Big Bear Lake. It's gorgeous. And so if we're going to be homeless for a little bit, that's the place to do it. And it's fun because I am now with my oldest daughter and her two youngest kids, and we're just having a blast. So with that, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about inspiring curiosity in your child. And that's what our podcast is about this week. And I have my dear friend and niece, Bailey Olsen, and she is co-hosting with me this week. And I love when I get to have Bailey on. So she was on my 40th episode. She's now on my 50th episode. So we'll see. Maybe that'll be a trend. She'll be my 60th. So we just have a lot of fun talking, but Bailey has two young kids. She has a daughter that's in first grade and a son in kindergarten. Or I guess they just finished. They're done. They graduated up into the next grade level. And she's a teacher. She's a gymnastics coach. She was on the gymnastics team for her college. She competed scholastically, I guess is what you call it. But yeah, she was a great competitor. She was a level 10 gymnast, and for those of you who don't know, it's the level 10s that are able to try out for the Olympics. She didn't get quite that far, but she got far enough to compete in college. She met and fell in love with the football quarterback, and they're off having an amazing life. They live in Michigan, and she teaches first, second grade mixed class, and she's just doing great. And she is so wonderful with the kids, and they get to have a lot of opportunities and experiences that build their curiosity. And we talked about, excuse me, we talked about having curiosity about nature, letting them play in the mud, letting them chase after insects and snakes. And snakes is hard for Bailey. She can't do that. It's funny, my oldest daughter, the one we're living with, she can do snakes. And so if they see a snake or the kids see a snake, then she's the first one out there to go help them look at it and capture it. And she's pretty good at knowing, most snakes are not a problem. And so she's pretty good at knowing which ones to stay away from and which ones we can look at for a while. I remember one time we had a bit of a family reunion. This was a couple of years ago. Yeah, 2020. It would have been 2 years ago. And we were at a lake outside of Denver called the Chatfield Reservoir. And all of a sudden we hear some parents, and jumping around. And I look up and I see Candace chasing off, and a snake had come up out of the water, and it was just tooling along. But Candace is the one. She caught it. She let the kids touch it. They talked about it and asked questions about it, and then she let it go. And I really love that about her, and watching her with the kids and just being fearless in reaching out and finding things and letting bugs crawl on her. I know she's caught praying mantises and crickets and lizards and all kinds of things. And when kids see that you're fearless, then they will become more fearless, and that's actually a good thing. There are only a few things out there that can actually hurt them badly. Bugs are just gross, right? But they're still a huge part of our not economy, our eco environment, and they're so important. And so when you can talk about the things that they do for people, the things that they do for the environment that's around us, then that's pretty cool. Bailey also talked about letting your kids find or ask the big questions. And that could be a bunch of different things, but why do we have X, Y, or Z? How does this work? And showing them, instead of just giving the answer, it's worthwhile to say, let's go look at that and find that out. And you can do YouTube, you can Google it, but letting them see the process of looking at things, finding out, is this I don't know, should we be touching this bug? Take a picture of it. And then you can go on Google and see if you can find one. I can remember, this was 7 years ago probably. There was the funniest looking spider outside of our classroom on the playground. It was yellow and it looked like it had the face of a cat. It was the strangest thing I've never seen one like it. Haven't seen one since, actually. But so we took a picture of it as a class, and I went on Facebook actually back then and showed the picture and said, I don't know what this is. Can anybody tell me? And sure enough, someone knew. And then once we had the name of the spider, we were able to look it up and figure out what it was. It was a very safe spider, and it was a very helpful spider. But then my kids got to see, let me see if that sun's coming down on me. I hope that doesn't affect the picture too much, but I can't bear that sun glaring at me. Anyway, but it allows the kids to ask the questions and to move forward and not depend on someone just giving them the answer, but finding ways to look it up, get the information. And kindergartners and preschoolers actually are totally capable of this, especially with Ask Siri or whatever it is. For me, I'm on Apple products, but every phone has their Ask program. And so then you can say, how do I find out about this spider? Or what is this lizard? And you can find that out. Kids can find that out. And once they start learning to find out these answers on their own, they get really excited and they start asking more questions and they start looking up things on their own. That helps them become independent. It helps them to have curiosities about science, about health, about the environment and how we work with that. Another thing, though, that was super fun that I enjoyed talking with Bailey about was there are more things to be curious about than science. Now I've got the hiccups. Oh well. It's okay to be curious about relationships, about people, and how do you find out about a person? What happens if someone shows up and you don't know who they are and why they're there? And it could be in their classroom, it could be at home, it could be on the playground. And so how do we find out about people? And what are some of the things that we can do to make sure we're safe? But sometimes finding out about who a person is, we can ask someone else. Do you know who that guy is? Do you know who that lady is? If you're in the classroom, you got to imagine that there's going to be this safe person coming in the classroom. And so when I would have that happen and my kids would say, who is that? I'm like, what can you do to find out who that is? And they'd say, I can ask her. Yes, you can. And we'd have kids go. And in fact, I had one little guy. Oh, he was so cute. I can't use his real name, but he would go up and say, hey, my name is Joey. What's your name? And I was so proud of him. And we'd practice that in class. You can practice that at home. But to have curiosity about relationships. So even when maybe you're at the park or you're somewhere and you see two people arguing, it happens. And so you can sit back and kind of watch what's going on. Are these people safe? Are they just having an argument? What do you think they're arguing about? Why do you think they're angry? Is that the right way to treat somebody? And so we can have curiosities about all kinds of things. Curiosities about faith. Those are great conversations to have with our kids and to help them find answers to their questions. Sometimes we impose questions on kids and we think we know what they're curious about. So we'll go off and talking about something, and it could be with faith, it could be with any of the other things too. But, we assume that we know what their questions are, but that's not a great thing to do, because half the time we're wrong, right? So we go off answering something that we think is what they're asking instead of asking, so where did that question come from? Well, why do you think this is happening? Or if they ask a question about, like, why is the moon in the sky sometimes and it's not sometimes at night? Why do you think that happens? And so you're putting it back on them, letting them think, and they might say, oh, I don't know. Because you're right, it does change. It's different. How would we find that out? What's something we could do to find that out? And then off you go. And you let them lead the investigation, right? And you can put on, and you could call it this. These are our detective hats, or, let's be a sleuth. What a great, fun word for kids to learn, to be a sleuth or a detective or an inquisitor or whatever it is. But give them some fun words to use and then go with that. I can remember my, he just is finishing first grade. But when he was about 3, my grandson Sylvan was really interested in ladybugs. He just loved ladybugs. So what my daughter Rocky did was they went down to the, local gardening store, and you could buy, I don't know, it seemed like thousands. I'm sure it was like several hundred. You can buy them and you let them go in your garden. And so they bought these and they let them go. Sylvan was so excited, and he would watch them and see what they were doing. Well, what do they land on? What do you think their favorite place is? And he'd have all these questions, and Rocky was really open to, him having those questions and then looking at it. And one time they were out and they found 2 ladybugs doing what 2 ladybugs might do. And he was like, oh, that's so cute. And she had it on videotape. I laughed for hours. But then there are eggs. And then he saw what ladybug larva looks like, and he was able to define it. And I don't know if they're even doing that this year. Wouldn't surprise me. But every year he really, really looked forward to getting the ladybugs and letting them out in their yard, and then tracking them and following them. And he knows a lot of stuff about ladybugs just from the observations that he's made over the years. What are the opportunities that are there for you if they have a question, or if they want to check something out? It could be curiosities about what they are capable of doing. So it might be, can I climb this rock wall? Can I climb this, cinder block wall and jump off of it? I was so scared one time. We were up at Lake Tahoe, same daughter, but more kids, more grandkids. Several of my kids were up there, and we're at Lake Tahoe at a beach, and there's this big rock. It had to be 5 feet off the ground, and there goes Sylvan up, and he says, I'm gonna jump. And his dad said, okay. And on the ground, it was just thick sand. It was lake sand. It was very, very thick, very soft landing. But I still, as much as I like to let kids try things and do things, my heart still skipped a beat. And he jumped. Someone got a picture of him in midair, which is so awesome. And he landed in the soft sand, was fine. He was going around, climbing the rocks, jumping off of that. He must have done that 10 times. Just so proud of himself that he was able to accomplish that. A lot of times we don't let our children investigate their own physical boundaries because, oh, you'll get hurt. Oh, no, don't do that. And we really need to let them, if we think that there's a chance that they might get hurt, we can certainly step closer and, be there if they get stuck and they can't get down, or they get up and they're afraid. And so, maybe you're going to climb up and rescue them. Maybe they can jump into your arms. It just depends. I have grandsons, so with the 12 grandkids, I actually wound up with an even split. I've got 6 grandsons and 6 granddaughters. And my grandsons, I think all of them, I can't think of any of them that didn't want to climb trees. They loved climbing trees. My oldest son, Shiloh, had a huge evergreen in his 5 acres that they lived on. And I would get so nervous of them climbing up so high, even, with me. I'm like, let them try, right? And then I have to live with that. But no one ever fell. They all were so proud of themselves. And so you're building that independence. You're building that ability to take risk. And that's something that our children are not learning to do, is to take chances and to take risks. So then when they're adults, they, are less likely to start their own business. They are less likely to go out and promote themselves within a company, or, within education even. And they are less likely to stand up for something against other people. So they may be in the minority in an opinion, or even with knowledge and facts, but they might be afraid to say something because that is risk. It's very scary to do those things. But if you can encourage them to have that curiosity, can I do this? I don't know. Can you? How would we find out? And you push them. Well, you don't push them, you allow them to move forward. I know that there are times, I know I drove my coworkers probably a little crazy, but the kids would be out on the playground and they'd want to climb on something. And even if they fell, it wasn't that far, and you have to have like 6 inches of bark, or pebbles or whatever, another soft landing. And I would stand closer if I thought they were really kind of taking a risk. And they loved it. They loved, look at me, so proud of themselves. And some of them, oh no, you might hurt yourself. I'm like, how far are they going to fall? And sometimes, like, the kids would want to run down a hill, and a lot of it was just they didn't want to go up the hill. And I can't really blame them, but I offered. I said, I'll go up the hill, make sure they don't go too far. And they would roll down the hill, and we'd joke about them becoming a grass monster because the dry grass, would get all over their clothes. And I never had a parent say, oh no, you're messy, right? They would all say, wow, looks like you had fun. Yes, and they took risk, and they found out things about themselves. So having curiosity can come in all kinds of areas of their life. And we want to encourage questions, and then not just give them the answer, but allow them to really be confident in asking questions. And I know that there are times when, maybe it's less convenient, or, we don't have the time to really take it. I would say do 2 things. Number 1, evaluate. Do I really not have time? Can't I just spend 5 minutes with my kid and engage in this questioning, in this line of questioning? And because we tend to, if we're not interested in what they're asking questions about, then we tend to push it off and, whatever. I don't have time because it's not interesting to us. But we're really doing a disservice to our kids here. I'm going to try and sit up a little. There. But we're really doing a disservice to our kids when they are met with disinterest in what they're interested in, if that makes sense. So I hope that we'll really consider if we honestly don't have time for that, or if we can come back to it. And so we can say, oh my goodness, we've got to leave to go meet grandma for dinner, or, we're going to be late for church or whatever. But I want to make sure that we come back to it when we get back. So you can write it down. The kids see that you're writing it down, because I don't want to forget your question, because it's a really good question. So we'll write it down, and then when we come back, we can remember it and we can find out the answer. Just because the kid forgets about it or you forget about it doesn't mean that it wasn't worth investigating. It's just life gets in the way, and we get distracted easily. And so that's something that you really might want to check out. Okay, so it's a great episode. I hope that you'll listen to it. It's our 50th. Woo! Can you believe it? 50 episodes in. That's amazing. And in fact, later this month is a year for us that we've been doing the podcast. And so I'm just super excited for everything that we have going on, and all of the things that we're doing. We still have our coaching opportunities, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and we also have some fun things coming up in July. So just be prepared. We're gonna go ahead. We've had enough interest that it looks like this is something that my people want us to do. We're gonna do a 10-day challenge. It's July 28th, I think, something like that. And we're gonna start on a Monday. It's gonna last 10 days, and there will be 5 live sessions where, when you register, we'll give you the code to get into a special Facebook group, and we'll have 5 sessions where we are going to talk about ways for you to find the inner peace, that calming voice, and quit yelling at your kids. Imagine what would happen. Think about your own growing up. And did you have a parent that yelled a lot? I did. And guess what? When I was raising my kids and I got flustered and felt like I just didn't know what else to do, I yelled too. And it's just not great for relationships. I'm very lucky. I have great relationships with my kids. But I think that when they were growing up, and when you're my age, let me just tell you, you look back and you think of all the things that you could have done better. And so my hope is to help parents do fewer things that they're going to look back on and say, I could have done that better. And I want us to be able to be happy and engaged and have those strong relationships that are going to build our children's confidence in a positive way, and that they're going to be independent, and they're going to be contributing factors in society. So we are going to do this. So it's a 10-day. So we'll start with a live. You'll have a day to work with whatever we've talked about, and then there will be another live. So every other day for those 10 days, we will have a live, and it will go with what you're talking about, what you're worried about, what are your experiences, and I think it's going to be a blast. And by the end, you'll be on the path. Now realize, no one's going to stop yelling in 10 days, and you probably won't stop yelling, period, but you're going to save it for something special. So if your child's running into the street and you're saying, stop, and you're yelling, but you yell all the time, they're not going to pay attention, because, that's their regular voice, right? You're yelling, and that's it. But if you save it and you only yell when things are truly important, truly dangerous, then when you yell, it's going to be like, oh, wait, she yelled? What's going on? Or he yelled, because dads are in on this too. And so we're going to help you with that. So look forward to that. We're